Hey everyone. I'm not sure if it'll pick it up, but it's been pouring rain all day, really aggressively. So it's kind of, I don't know, ironic to me to be talking about a film that is so sunny, so beachy. But any other day of the year it'd be fine because I live in Florida and it looks like this beach year round. In fact, I mean, I think people live down here as if they're on some kind of nihilistic vacation. So maybe Mr. Hulot's holiday is a lot more appropriate than previously thought. But yeah, talking about the 1953 comedy masterpiece, Mr. Hulot's Holiday. I'm pretty sure every film that Tati made, I'm gonna end up saying is like masterful in some capacity because he was that much of a genius. Um, he's kind of eclipsing Chaplin and Keaton and Lloyd for me, which is a big deal. And it's not just hyperbole. I think that Chaplin was really affecting too emotionally. So I mean, I can't say definitively yet, but Tati's really speaking to me. A lot's been written about Tati. A lot's been written about this movie, about how it's an investigation of the new like vacation culture. You know, how it's oh God, so many critics have written about it's something that I picked up on Joy to Faith, where I said Joy to Fate is like such a mysterious film. I'm not used to comedy being so enigmatic, so puzzling. But so many people have at least written about Mr. Hulot's Holiday in that way of we don't know why the order of sequences are this way. We don't know if there is a story. And we've also never seen a film where sound is used heavily in this film, but it really doesn't have any narrative power. I read, I think, David Bellios or something. He pointed out something incredibly interesting that, like, you have you have like the beautiful girl there with a bunch of people trying to woo her, a bunch of different kinds of men. You have like the intellectual Marxist. You have an old ship captain. You have a hotel trying to keep itself together. You have all of the mechanisms of narrative. You have all of the components of narrative, but you don't have a plot. You don't actually have narration. You don't actually have it. But it's all there. It's all the pieces are there, and they're just blissfully, ignorantly, or no, not ignorantly, oblivious to the to the possible narrative. And like that kind of statement that I just made there, like I built off of the previous criticism and ended there, that's why I think Tati affects me personally. Like I haven't seen this written about Tati, that so many of his films I picked up on alienation pretty quickly from Playtime, and that is definitely carried through in Joy to Fate and Mr. Hulot's Holiday, which are the only ones I've seen so far. Alienation is there, but I think it's a greater sort of alienation and maybe a more melancholic form of it, meaning that like we've alienated ourselves from others so much that we've alienated ourselves from our life's journey of the narrative of our own lives. If you look around your life right now, you probably see all of the different components of plot, and yet your life might not have one, even though it's all there. Because we've alienated ourselves from the narrative that gives life its story, you know? And to me, like, that's really incredible and almost makes me want to, like, cry a little bit because it's so true. So true. I mean, before we get hyper emotional, let me just say this movie's funny as fuck. This movie is so funny. Um, Gag after gag after gag. And then sometimes it's not, sometimes it's just nothingness. It's so, I mean, lackadaisical. I mean, it is a vacation film, and you do feel like you're just relaxing, like you're just taking it all in. It's also the first Hulot character film, Jack Tati's most famous character, the one who appeared in what people regard as his greatest films. Although I think that Joy to Fate is probably just as good as the others. You know, I mean, Playtime is in a league of its own, but not just among Tati films though. It's one of the 10 greatest films ever made. It's the best, one of the best comedies ever made. Um, so it's in a whole nother category, but Mr. Hulot's Holiday is pretty on par with Joy to Fate. Um, the most poetic part of it for me, that gets the most laughs, is when Hulot accidentally sets off all these firecrackers and fireworks, and Tati, I think, deliberately films it, and as if it's like a war zone all of a sudden, a bombardment, um, because the fireworks are in the shack that is like next to the hotel where all of our characters are basically, and Tati is so embarrassed and like, he means well, but everything he does is catastrophic, but all these fireworks start shooting off at the hotel, and it's like Tati is like attacking attacking the very center of the middle class vacation lifestyle. But I think it's much more emotional than that. I think he's attacking the very center of an alienated humanity. He's like, God damn it! Like, what do I have to do? What do people have to do in order for other people to engage in the narrative that is in their life? What do I have to do to get people to engage with the human condition and actually have a narration, actually have a plot? Mr. Hulot's Holiday is a film that desperately wants to have a plot, but it can't have a plot because humanity doesn't has lost the plot. So I love that Hulot wages war against these kinds of complacent ideologies, these complacent personas, and fires all these fireworks and firecrackers over at this hotel of people who seem to be too insular, too self-conscious to live freely. And like Martine, the beautiful blonde, and Hulot are the only ones who really try, outside of the children, who really try to live openly. I think the most famous gag from the film is probably, well, it's either like the the scene where Tati's sitting next to the disgruntled gentleman, and every time the disgruntled gentleman, they're eating food, and every time he goes to pick up his napkin, Tati reaches over to grab the salt, but he ends up wiping the man's face on his sleeve as if it were a napkin. But the other one that's really well done is when Tati accidentally drives to a funeral, and he has a flat tire there, and his tire falls over on these wet leaves, and a man comes by with collecting and gathering wreaths for the wedding, and he thinks that Tati's tire with leaves now stuck to it is a wreath, and he brings it over to the funeral. It reminded me a little bit of, I don't think I mentioned this in my Joy to Fate video, but one of the biggest laughs from me in the Joy to Fate is when Tati's postman goes and delivers a package, and I think he assumes it's a groom, like it's for a wedding, because all he sees is this man and like very well dressed, and he's like, oh, getting all gussied up, huh, for the big day, and then he walks away, and then as he shuts the door, you see a corpse lying there, like no, he's getting ready for a funeral, bruh. Like, that's funny as hell. This movie, Hulot's comedy, Tati's work, his aura, really speaks to me personally, because it's like, look around in my own life, right, guys? I'm sure you can commiserate. Look around at my life, and I see all of the components of narrative. I see the girl waiting in the wings. I see the villain not too far away. I see chances to engage in this shared story called life. And if we all are alienated from the narration of life because of our own embarrassment or because of our own complacency or arrogance even, then no one's living a story. Then we've all lost the collective plot, because the human condition is a shared thing. And if all of us are alienated not only from each other, but from the narrative of our lives, that's probably by proxy of being alienated from each other, then humanity itself has lost the plot. Like, we could have purpose, you know? Like, nihilism is chic, absurdism is in vogue. It's just that it doesn't have to be. You can only truly be nihilistic, I believe, if you completely ignore all of the narrative mechanisms in life that are there and that could provide purpose. But we refuse to do that. We alienate ourselves from purpose. And that, I think, is Tati's most emotional and humanist statement. And it really, boom, 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 boom. By the way, add it to the bucket list, everybody. I want to go to the hotel that this was filmed at on the seaside. It still exists. I think it's a Marriott now, but there is a statue of Mr. Hulot erected, looking over the pier, looking over the ocean, and that'd be so cool just to be there. And I don't know, it's a bucket list thing. It's a geeky fucking thing, but I would love to see it so much. The beach did look beautiful, but also I live in Florida. I am like, if that was supposed to look like spectacularly or exceptionally beautiful, it's immune. I'm immune. I see beaches all the time. I don't know. Like I said, everyone here is like they're living on a nihilistic like holiday. But we haven't progressed from, I think, Hulot's dilemma is what I'll coin it as, alienating ourselves from the plot, from purpose. But it is so devastating that it has to be deliberate. And I know you must agree. Like, you could engage in the narrative of life, in all of the narratives of life. And I mean, in order not to have any narrative in your life, that takes that's a deliberate thing. That takes thought, that takes premeditation to not be involved. So stop being so embarrassed and be silly. Get with it. Live. I don't know. Tired. I just worked like 10 hours. Mr. Hulot's holiday is so good, everybody. Thanks for watching.